Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of American Scammers. Today, we're exploring the life of one of the most interesting humans in the 21st century. A man who committed crimes, made a boatload of cash, and even sank his yacht. His story is surreal, and the way he lived his life will change your definition of what it means to party. Jordan Belfort's name and story came to life when Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese teamed up to make a movie about it back in 2013. The movie is well received and came to theaters on Christmas Day. But instead of watching a 3-hour movie, you can listen to this episode and get the full story. The movie is loaded with drugs, sex, and nudity, and even broke the Hollywood record books with the whopping 506 F-bombs. On today's episode, we'll cover his early life, his starting finances, his corruptive crimes, his lavish lifestyle, his arrest, his prison time, and how he recovered from all of this, and how he has a big name to this day in the world of finance. Enjoy the episode. Jordan Belfort wasn't always a sleazy stockbroker. His first job was selling meat door to door on Long Island. But the business failed big time, which forced him to file bankruptcy at the age of 25. He lucked out and got a job as an intern in the L.F. Rothschild firm. But Belfort was laid off a couple years later when the stock market crashed in 1987. His feet were against the fire, as nobody was hiring stockbrokers during this time, and he was desperate to find work. He stumbled on the ad in the classifieds and showed up in a suit interested in the position. At this job opportunity, he discovered that he would receive a 50% commission for every penny stock he sold. He thrived at this, as he was charming, charismatic, and convincing over the telephone to people who were looking to pay off their mortgages a little quicker. Jordan took his success at this company and decided to start his own, with a team of trustworthy stockbrokers. Well, as trustworthy as you can get in the world of sleazy penny stock pushers. Let's take a deeper look at how he made his money. The idea he used to create his company was to gain the trust of investors by selling penny stock with a guaranteed financial return but low commission costs. After the investor would see the result, the stockbroker tries to sell an already owned stock that is bought at a low price but artificially inflates the value to the investors. Since the investors trust the stockbroker, they buy the overpriced stock in the hopes of gaining an even bigger profit. But when the firm sells the stock again, the price falls and the investors lose their money. That practice is called pump and dump, since the stockbroker pumps the volume and then dumps the stock. So their clients lost all of the money and the brokers make all of the money. It's safe to say Jordan Belfort has some enemies. Investors were falling for the sweet talk, and the money kept flowing through the boiler room. The boiler room was where the brokers would make calls and sell stocks. It was also the location where Jordan Belfort would make epic speeches and motivate his team to make more calls and bigger money. Jordan was good at boosting their egos and their ability to scam clients. It's crazy to wrap your mind around this, but at one point, Stratton Oakmont had over 1,000 stockbrokers and was involved in stock issues totaling more than $1 billion. Drowning in cash, this opened the opportunity for brokers to form some bad habits. Drugs such as methaqualone, also known as Quaaludes, were a frequent drug of choice for the boys in fancy suits. Jordan was so enticed by the drug, he even had his secretary send him a package of Quaaludes at 4 a.m. in the morning on a commercial jet airline from New York to London. It cost him a fortune, but this just shows what power and money can do for those deep in the game of riches. One of the most notorious scenes from the movie is when he took an excessive amount of lewd and tried to drive his Mercedes. He ended up crashing it because his body became paralytic. If you thought this was bad, he nearly crashed his private helicopter into his mansion with his family sleeping inside. Hollywood tends to exaggerate details, but the majority of the movie is based on real events. Jordan's best friend and business partner really did eat a real-life goldfish in the boiler room to prove a point. So it's safe to say, if that's true, many of the other events are true. Making millions opened the door for him to buy his new wife a luxurious yacht. That was the biggest yacht on the East Coast. It was big enough to carry a helicopter, as well as 4 motorbikes, 6 jet skis, and a state-of-the-art dive gear. In case you want to swim with the turtles after sipping some cocktails. Once Jordan owned this boat, he felt unstoppable. Belfort's partying was legendary, and Elliot, the skipper of the yacht, clearly saw eye-watering things on board. But as far as he was concerned, he was there to safeguard the boat. Elliot recalls, when Jordan Belfort became the owner, he could do whatever he wanted. I was there to protect the boat. Elliot continued by saying, Jordan is a brilliant mind and a lovely person. It was just when he was in party mode, he was out of control. It sounds like Jordan was in party mode a lot. The yacht was named Nadine after his wife, but Belfort's love story, not only to his wife, but his yacht, was to be short-lived. Disaster struck with the boss and guests on board during an 85-mile crossing in Italy. What was forecast to be a 20-knot blow in moderate seas degenerated into a violent 70-knot storm, with crests towering above 10.5 meters, according to Elliot. Wave after wave pounded the superstructure, stoving in hatches and windows shattered, so the water poured in below and made the boat sluggish. By a miracle, the engine room remained dry and they could maintain steerage way, motoring slowly through the black of the night as rescue attempt after rescue attempt was called off. Nadine eventually sank at dawn in over 1,000 meters of water, just 20 miles from the coast of Sardinia. Everyone had been taken off by helicopter, and thankfully there was no loss of life. Captain Mark Elliott was roundly congratulated for his handling of the incident. The insurance paid immediately because it was the storm of the century, he says. So disaster struck, but Belfort was able to get the money back, which makes for a happy ending to the story. This all took place shortly before Jordan Belfort's arrest. Jordan's company, Stratton Oakmont, was catching a lot of heat and scrutiny from the National Association of Securities Dealers, which is now known as the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. You know, the ones who fined JP Morgan 3 times for suppressing the price of the precious metals market. In 1996, the NASD expelled Stratton Oakmont and put the firm out of business. In 1999, Belfort pled guilty to fraud and related crimes in connection with the stock market manipulation and running a boiler room as a penny stock scam. He made a plea deal with the FBI for a lesser sentence and in exchange wore a wire to incriminate his friends, remember, the trustworthy ones. He received a 4-year sentence at a low-security federal prison, which was like hanging out at a Beverly Hills rehab facility. Okay, maybe it wasn't that nice, but he had a lot of privileges there that didn't come off as a prison vibe. Tennis courts and libraries don't exactly represent the common man's views of prison. Jordan didn't have to worry about violent criminals or precarious facilities, even though he stole over $200 million, a true American scammer. During his time in prison, he was inspired by his cellie, Tommy Chong, to write a memoir of his life. If you don't know who Tommy Chong is, he is one of the biggest cannabis activists in Hollywood and has been seen in the beloved sitcom That 70s Show. Jordan wrote the book in prison, as his 4-year sentence was reduced to 22 months. He also had to pay back $110 million to stock buyers. Ever since being released from prison, he has made his living as a motivational speaker, author, and from the movie rights. He was on his way to make an estimated $100 million in 2014, which is double the amount of what he used to make back in the 90s. Belfort also gets paid somewhere between $30,000 to $80,000 for every motivational speech that he gives, turning it into a heavy sum when you consider the fact that he does about 45 tour dates a year. He also has training courses from straight line sales certifications that he sells a whopping $8,000. Businessweek reported that Belfort has only paid $21,000 towards his restitution obligations out of the $1.2 million that he was paid for his connection with the film. Sounds like he's been making minimum payments since being released from prison. To this day, he has only paid $10 million of the $110 million owed. He claims to be a changed man now, as he is quite vocal about his mistakes and mishaps, as he was under the influence of drugs. He tries to lead the people in a better direction now when he speaks, writes, and appears on podcasts. You can find him on Instagram and TikTok, where he posts about his frequent success, even after being in prison and ruining millions of lives back in the 90s. Because remember, he was scamming blue-collar Americans, not the rich trust fund kids. This lesson taught millions of Americans you have a better chance of winning the Powerball than making big profits on penny stocks. There are some facts about Jordan Belfort that was left off the movie screen, which is bizarre to think about, knowing that the film has lasted 3 hours. You'd think they'd pack it all in there. Jordan was making $50 million a year and had one of the biggest financial runs of his career when he pulled in a whopping $12 million in 3 minutes. That's right. In the time that it would take you to heat up 2 Hot Pockets, Jordan Belfort made more money than most of us will ever see in our lifetime. According to his confession, he laid down $3 million in cash and $10,000 stacks of notes, and then proceeded to make some sweet love to his then wife, Nadine. We're pretty sure this gave Belfort a lifetime of bragging rights, but making love on top of crispy bills, while it sounds great, actually completely sucks. Margot Robbie, who played Belfort's wife and had to reenact the scene, had a word of caution for anyone attempting such an act. I got 1 million paper cuts on my back from all that money. It was not as glamorous as it sounds. If anyone is ever planning on having sex on a pile of cash, don't. Something else that's interesting about his story is the title of both the memoir and the movie contains the word Wall Street in it. That, however, was never true, because Jordan Belfort never worked on actual Wall Street. His company, called Stratton Oakmont, was in fact based in Lake Success, Long Island, which is an hour's drive away from where Wall Street is. This made perfect sense, because despite raking in millions with his company, he didn't have the big bucks in the beginning to rent an office space in one of the most expensive parts of New York City. Belfort trained his staff to tell investors that they were calling from Wall Street to make his deal seem legit and enticing. Despite his success as a scam artist, Jordan never wanted to be a stockbroker. He originally wanted to be a dentist and saved up $20,000 from selling Italian ice on the beach as a young kid. Super impressive, to say the least. He used that money to pay for dental school, and on the first day of his freshman year, the dean of the school took him aside and told him that dentistry was not a golden profession anymore, and he shouldn't expect to become rich. That was enough for Belfort to drop out and switch career paths. If you count scamming millions of Americans out of their good hard-earned money a career path, of course. Thank you for listening to this episode, and if you enjoy learning about the Wolf on Wall Street, do us a solid and share this with a friend or two. Be aware of the American scammers out there, and be smart with your money, and good things will happen for you. If you're new to this podcast, do us a favor and subscribe. Help us spread the word and come back for future episodes. Thanks again for listening. Catch you next time.